Hey guys, it's Alyssa, the hopeless romantic redhead.
And I'm Danielle, the whodunit detective.
And welcome to Main Character Syndrome. If you feel like you're the main character in your life, you're in the right place. And boy, does it feel like a main character day because we are on the final episode of our deep dive into the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. Oh my God, Danielle, we've been doing this for almost a year.
It's been a long, long time.
But, it's been a labor of love.
Yes, it's been a great time reading all of this. I think I said it last episode. I'm sad to leave this world now, but I will definitely come back to it and read it all over again. Because yeah, it's truly such a great series. And today we'll be going from chapters 101 all the way to the very end of the book. So spoiler alert, if you haven't finished the book yet, or if you have not obviously read up to the last book in the Throne of Glass series, this one's Kingdom of Ash, then don't listen to this episode or you will literally know how the entire series ends.
Yeah. And this is my reread, and I have had a blast and a half, like seeing all the Easter eggs in the books that kind of like allude to the ending, and it just blows my mind every single time. Like Sarah J. Maas is like it's she and like Rebecca Yarros are almost like one and the same. They're both like Taylor Swift, where they love to put Easter eggs in their novels. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And lots of like gut-wrenching plot twists. So
Yeah,
get ready, buckle up.
not
There's
afraid
a
to kill
lot to
people.
come.
Not afraid to kill people, either of
No.
them, and that's scary.
Although we can talk about this after this episode. I have questions. But first, we're gonna get into it with 101.
So, chapter 101, Dorian asks what Aelin is going to tell everyone when they go back to the group now that she's forged the lock and sent the gods back. And she's like, I'm just going to tell them the truth. And that she is Fae and no longer human. And the Fae can immediately tell that around her when she starts to walk back up to the camp. Elide then asks if the gods were gone, and she says yes. Erewhon can no longer bring his brothers over to their world, and there will be no more callers. So, no more Wordstone callers can now be made. And that's really great for Dorian to hear. Aelin is then questioned and criticized by the royals like Hussar and Sartak and all of them for not doing what they had planned. And then Aelin tells Elide that she had never planned to live and rule. So it's kind of like absurd where they're like questioning Aelin, and it's like, whoa, I found a way to do this and not die, and you're mad about it?
They're mad that she didn't just sacrifice herself.
Yeah, like this is weird. So yeah, they're like all annoyed. And then Alid pulls Silba's ring. This is gonna be asterisk K mark. Alid pulls Silba's ring from her finger and then gives it to Aelin. Aelin says that she failed because they didn't take Erewhon, but she puts but she put the keys in the gate, so they can no longer be used against them. Borte now comes with them, and she says that she wants to lead Aelin's flank, and she's like wants to fight by Aelin's side. And then, as they're getting ready to go, a snowstorm arrives. Bad one.
hmm So then we get into chapter 102. If you remember, Murtaugh went to go fight the threat to their defenses, and he ended up getting killed. And so Ren is distraught. So Adian is trying to console his friend. They're both crying. Lysandra comes in and kisses Adian after wiping his tears in this really cute moment. And then they kind of have this realization that they have about enough supplies and troops for 4 days of fighting Morass armies before they lose and everyone dies.
So in chapter 103, Aelin and her army are an entire week from Orinth, and the snowstorm has set them back even further. A messenger then comes into a meeting that all of the leaders are in and says that they must all come now, and they take them and point out a stag with fire at stag's antlers, and it's the Lord of the North and all of the little folk. there. And then they beckon them to follow and say, doom is upon Orinth. You must hurry. Aelin then asks what their price is, and they say, a better world. Then
Where have we
Aelin
heard
and
that?
yeah, Aelin and Rowan then go to the books that Chaol brought, and Aelin comes up with a plan, but we are not told the plan.
I should like go back through the book and see how many times a better world is said. You could take a shot for each one.
Yeah.
The Sarah J. Maas drinking game. That could be fun.
Yes.
Chapter 104. Adian and Lysandra are exhausted and realize that they can't win. Adian's forces are out of arrows and fire lances. And then plot twist, here comes Darrow, who gives Adian back the Sword of Orinth and his title, tells Lysandra that he recognizes Caraver and her as its lady, and then names Evangeline his heir. So here is Darrow making a complete 180 before he's like, Adian is a coward. How dare he, take the Bane and use it the way that he didn't want him to. He didn't recognize Lysandra, said she was a whore. And now I think he has such a soft spot for Evangeline
Mm-hmm.
that he's really like softened up a little bit more and like opened his eyes and is a little bit more understanding. So Darrow for the win here. I don't want to kill him anymore.
Yeah. In chapter 105, this is the final stand between Terrasen and Morath. Morath is going full force now at Orinth. They kind of know and see that they're out of weapons, no more arrows, no more fire lances, and many are dying in Terrasen. Manon then horns for the witches to fall back towards the city. This is also huge. Manon does not fall back, but she's like, this is not good. The Western Gate is continuing to fall, and this is going to be a defeat. Adian then wants to go fight there at the gate where he expects to die for Terrasen. He then kisses and says goodbye to Lysandra, and she understands what's going on, and she says, until the end, and they agree to find each other in another life. Then, all of a sudden, a different horn begins to blow, not Morath's horn, and an army appears on the horizon, and leading the charge, Aelin Galathynius riding the Lord of the North. And once again, I was in tears at this.
She knows how to make an entrance.
So many tears were.
There were a lot of tears shed for this book alone.
Yeah, happy and sad.
So then we get into 106. Aelin and her forces make a final march toward Orinth, which is Aelin's home. She's going to go save it. And Aelin is at the forefront. She's riding atop the majestic Lord of the North, her loyal companion, and also a symbol of hope. And they attack, and the battle begins.
So then in chapter 107, Aelin is fighting, and Rowan and the cadre are all together fighting next to Aelin. Borte's there. Aelin then gets away from them, and Rowan's like, where's Aelin? I need to go find her. And, she's off killing people. The Western Gate is close to being breached now, and if that happens, that is the end of this. Terrasen has lost. And so Adian then goes to fight there. Lysandra is flying now with the Kraken. Aelin is fighting with the Lord of the North and Borte and Yeren getting and they're getting back on Rooks. And they are taken down, and Wyvern goes to attack Aelin. So Borte, Yeren on their Rooks, watching Aelin's back. They're taken down by some Wyvern, and then that Wyvern goes to kill Aelin. And she uses some very weak firepower that she has. Doesn't do much, but she keeps trying. And then all of a sudden, Lysandra comes and kills the Wyvern. So I think this chapter is really good at this is not just like a one-person thing. Like, while Aelin is strong, she needs the people around her to help. And she wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for all of them and their support, even at this point in the book. So then Lysandra and Aelin then start to race to the southern gate, not the western gate, the southern gate to stop a siege tower. Aelin starts turning Morass catapults on them, just like Sam did in Skulls Bay. And this was like another wraparound. Like, we remember Sam. She learned something from him, and she's going to use his move to kill some more people. Takes that catapult, turns it on them, and takes down the siege tower at the southern gate. Nezrin is then hollering for the Rooks to fall back towards the city gates as the rest of Morath's army arrives. And that was the army that Dorian saw that was waiting in Peranth. And Aedion knows he needs to immediately get that gate back shut, and his father, Gavriel, then arrives to help him.
Yep. Grab your tissues for this one. 108. Aedion and Gabriel are fighting together, and they need to close the gate to the city of Orinth to keep Morath out. Gabriel then ends up outside of the gate trying to shut it, and he shuts it behind him, sacrificing himself. And then we get this scene, which is interesting, as we get Rowan's point of view as he's fighting. He sees Gabriel's lifeless body. So we know that he's dead. There's no doubt about it. He's not coming back. And he continues to fight in his honor.
Yeah, and Aedion was kind of like realized what was happening in that moment and was like, no. And Gabriel's like, shut the gate. And Aedion's like, no. And so he was torn away from his father because his father sacrificed himself. That was hard.
Yeah. Usually they finally make the bond and then someone dies.
Yeah, so this really hurt Aedion. In chapter 109, Chaol is riding with Dorian into the gates now, and a horn blows and Morath starts pressing on them again. Ansel and Aelin are now together, and Ansel is being healed, and they realize that we're outside the city. We need to get into the city to protection. Ansel then runs, and she gets into the city, and the southern gate shuts. Aelin is not in the gate. She's not in the city. Aelin then recites her story. Once upon a time, in a land long burned to ash, there lived a young princess who loved her kingdom. And then at the same time, Irene learns that Erewhon, Maeve, and the Vol Queens arrived with that army that came from Peranth. And they are here. And Lysandra then appears to tell Darrow that they've been ordered to evacuate. Lysandra appears and she tells Darrow that they have now been ordered to evacuate all of the women and children, that this is still looking like this is going to be a lost cause. Then Darrow says that there's no route out of the city that could save people in time. And then Aelin appears beyond the southern gate before Erewhon and Maeve.
Yep. So, chapter 110, Aelin's facing Maeve and Erewhon with no magic, mind you. All she has, I should have mentioned this before, she has like a flaming crown that she's using like her little last bit of magic to show and basically fake that she still has magic. So she has that crown of flame on her head, and that's literally all she can do. And she starts playing mind games. She starts like encompassing Selena Sardathian a little bit, and she's playing with Maeve and Erewhon, and she's pitting them against each other. She tells Erewhon that Maeve planned to destroy him, and she also says that they have healers here who could destroy him as well. And they start to kind of like bicker, and then Aelin starts to like fight. And meanwhile, Rowan is trying desperately to go help her.
So in chapter 111, this chapter, there's a lot going on and we're bouncing around from character to character. And it's just kind of a chapter also that shows where everyone is in this fight right now. Nezarin is out fighting Ilkin, and we're then taken to Irene, who is taken herself to city walls to Chaol and Dorian. Irene says that they need Dorian, and Chaol tells her and yells at her to go back to the castle. He doesn't want her out here in this mess. And then
Meanwhile, she's pregnant.
yes. Yeah, she's pregnant with his baby. And then Alid explains their plan to them. We don't know it yet. And then Kaol tells Irene she can't. He then says goodbye to her and he tells her to go save the world. Rowan, at the same time, changes to a hawk and he goes to fly to Aelin. Lorcan and Fenris are fighting and they start to run to the gate. And as Lorcan's going to run to the gate to go out to help Aelin and Rowan too, he sends his goodbyes to a lead through the wind. They're all expecting to die right now. And then Aelin is using fire on Erewhon and Maeve, but they don't quite know. We think that she doesn't have all of her power anymore, and they're still kind of dodging her. And she's already approaching burnout despite what little power she's used. And she continues to put doubt in Erewhon's mind about Maeve. So back to the mind games, and Erewhon looks at something behind Aelin and he's noticing healers in the castle and he's like feeling some power that is being sent from the castle. And all of a sudden he turns and he is pissed at Maeve. And Ilkin all of a sudden then comes up and grabs Erewhon and takes him over to the city.
Yep. So then we get into chapter 112. Erewhon, it turns out, spotted a healer and has gone to try to kill her, or them healers. And then it turns out that Irene is the one who sent a signal on top of the tower, which was a huge power flare to draw Erewhon's attention. Irene purposefully tricked him to get him to come for her. He then realizes he's been tricked and he is not happy. Meanwhile, Aelin is holding her own against Maeve and her illusions, and Maeve tries to play more mind games and try to get her to swear the blood oath and vow that, and Aelin vows to herself that she will not yield. So this whole time is Maeve just trying to get Aelin to swear the blood oath. And then Rowan, Fenris, and Lorcan arrive, and then Maeve attacks them with her power, injuring Fenris and trapping Rowan in the process.
Yes. So in chapter 15, Erewhon is facing Irene, and he says that he's been looking for Irene and that she doesn't even know what she can do. He says in his world, healers are also called executioners. And he and his brothers used healers to unbind the word gate and took 3 pieces of the word gate to create the keys. Maeve has no idea that this is all because of the healers and that's how they made the keys. He says that with her gifts, because Irene's so powerful, that she could also do the same. And now that the keys are gone, he wants her because he needs more keys again. And so he wanted to actually come and find her and get to her. So he doesn't think like this was a trap. He's like, I got you here. I've been looking for you. And Maeve has no idea. And he thinks that he's won. And then he tries to go at her, but he can't move because he is stuck in a word mark. And it's actually not Irene, it's Dorian having played Irene. And then Lysandra comes in with actual Irene. Alid also arrives at the same time too, and Lysandra pins Erewhon down, and Alid stabs him with Damaris, and Irene then slams her hands on his chest and starts to heal him. Dory, then while she's healing him, cuts his palm and starts to feed his power into Irene to help her. And then Dorian demands from Erewhon his father's name, but Erewhon won't give it. And then Erewhon starts to kind of get away, and then Dorian stabs him again with Damaris and leaves it in there. And he says that his father's name is his own name, Dorian, that he made him forget it, but his father only remembered it one time, and it was when he held Dorian for the first time.
Oh,
No. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so sad.
I know.
Irene then finds the monster inside Erewhon, She's fighting it, she's calling it pathetic, and then she kills it and she defeats Erewhon and he's down, and then she tells them to burn his body. Erewhon's gone.
Yeah, just like that. Like, I don't know. I felt like it was a little anticlimactic.
Yeah, it took months to heal. It took months to heal Kale.
Yeah. And she just kills Erewhon in like 2 seconds.
I mean, I guess that's why they were like, Sarah J. Maas was like, well, I guess we need to feed Dorian some power in there to make her more powerful to explain this plot
Yeah.
hole. What would be a plot hole?
Yeah, I don't know. Like Erewhon's like this big bad all-powerful being. It feels like I don't know, he may have should have died in like a giant battle with Aelin. I, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Well,
not the writer.
we have another big battle coming up.
Yeah. So we get to chapter 114 where we're back with Maeve's battle. And Maeve's power is kind of showing Rowan, Lorcan, and Fenris different things. So Rowan sees this horrible image of Aelin. She's dead, spiked to the gates of Orinth as like this war trophy. He is in shambles. Then we get to Fenris, who sees his brother, and his brother is telling him that everything that happened to Fenris, or everything that happened to his brother, is Fenris's fault. So he's blaming Fenris for him dying and him swearing the blood oath and everything. Then we get to Lorcan, who sees Elide telling him that she will never be with him, which I'm like, first world problems. Like the other two have pretty horrific dreams, and this is more like your lover doesn't love you. But I digress. Anyways, Maeve is using this to try and get Aelin to swear the blood oath again. And Aelin then summons a strength in her connection with Rowan. She blasts the last of her power to Lorcan, Rowan, and Fenris to help them get them out of the mind trap, if you will. And then Aelin starts creating portals, and they all lead to different armies. A band of Fae, wolf riders who hate Maeve, and the Stygian spiders who also want to destroy Maeve because she gave them to the Vulg, like the Yellow Legs witches. Then Aelin and Rowan distract Maeve while Fenris stabs her in the heart with Goldrinn. So all in all, Fenris is the one that kills Maeve.
Yes, kind of.
And yeah, kind of.
Kind
But
of.
he stabs her in the heart with Goldrinn.
Yes. And so actually, I got it a little wrong. Damaris wasn't left in Erewhon. I confused that because Goldrinn is the sword that was left in Maeve. So Maeve is then asking them to please take the sword out of her. And she's like, if you'll take this sword out of me, I will go wherever you want to banish me to. And Aelin then confirms that Maeve actually means it. She's like, if I really banish you, are you really gonna go? And Maeve's like, yeah. And then Aelin holds out her hand to Maeve, like they're going to make an agreement. And then she goes to take her hand, and Aelin then slips Sybil's ring, aka Anthral's ring, on her finger and tells her to go to hell. And the ring, if you remember, provides immunity from Volg, and it is also poison to actual Volg. And Aelin then takes the sword out of her and cuts her head off. That was wild.
I
And
enjoyed this moment.
yeah, and
Just
then
desserts.
right. And then all of Morath's soldiers die immediately. And Aelin realizes that they've died, and it's because Yrene has killed Erewhon. And then all of a sudden, Aelin then like throws her hand up in the air with the sword, and she's chanting, and the whole army starts chanting Irene's name for killing Erewhon and defeating Morath. They've won
Yeah.
the war.
I feel like Maeve's death was a little bit more of like a build up versus Erewhon's. And I get Maeve was like the secret bad lead character. I mean, not really
Uh,
secret 'cause she was bad, but like the evil genius, if you will.
yeah.
I don't know. Again, not the writer. 116. Gale wakes up in a stairwell with Yrene and realizes that she saved them all and they have a moment looking forward to their future together with their child. So cute. He's like, you did save the world like I told you to. Then we get to Nezran and she is injured but alive. She and Sartak also have a final moment together, looking towards the future and the Southern Covenant with him. We're gonna get a lot of these, okay? And then Aelin and company, they are looking at the battlefield, and then they enter Orinth and are met with cheers and celebration.
So in 117, Adian then goes to where his father, Gavriel, his body was placed, and he sits by his side and he's just mourning. Lysandra comes in and joins him, and he says that he wants to give his father a grand burial and put his plot in the royal graveyard where the heroes are buried and where he would be buried next to him in the future. Falcon then comes and meets his niece Lysandra for the first time, and he cries after finding her 10 years later and tells her that his fortune is all hers. But then she takes Adian's hand and says she already has everything she needs, but it's still a fun reunion. And this is also another thing. Falcon was just missing during this whole battle. I don't
Mhm.
recall him being brought up.
He was probably shifted into some kind of creature.
Yeah, he's just not brought up ever. I was like, that's a weird person to bring back. Or you just forgot to put him in there. So then Dorian is now, he's holding Damaris, and there's this giant black stain on the blade now. And he is still struggling to figure out whether he's sword, if I am human, and it lights up. And then finds him, and she tells him he will not find the 13 and says that she misses them. And they have like just like this moment together where he's like, I'm sorry. And then Aelin and Rowan are strolling Orinth, and they meet with Darrow, who's blocking the castle entrance. And Evangeline is standing there with him. And he asks if it's true that her magic was depleted and why was it depleted. And her answer is just, she says, because Terrasen is my home. And he says, welcome, your majesty. And she enters the castle. Adian is in there in the castle, and she runs to him immediately, and then he takes her to his father Gavriel's body as well. And she offers Gavriel in this moment more tears, more tears. She offers Gavriel's body in this moment the blood oath and cuts his palm and hers, and she says he is a warrior of honor. The cadre then surround Gavriel's body, and they're all mourning and singing. And then Elide is helping the injured, and Manon shows up and tells her the 13 are all dead. A lot of people need to know that the 13 are dead, and it was all sad every time. Manon then tells Elide to live. If you remember, she gave her that order a long time ago, and then she tells Elide, though, to live. And I think that was kind of like, you're now the only person left that I have, kind of aside from Dorian, you know? So that's kind of how I took that. And then
Yeah, I think
Lorcan,
you're right.
yeah, Lorcan then tells Elide that Paranth is safe now and asks her to ask him to go to Paranth with her. And then she's like, yeah, do you want to go to Paranth with me? And he was like, ask me to marry you. This is all reversed. And then she's like, okay, will you marry me? And then she points out, she goes, but just so you know, because I'm Lady of Paranth, you'll have to take my last name. And so you would now be Lord Lorcan Lockin. That was just funny. And then he says that they will marry and that he will bind his heart to hers and give up his immortality so he doesn't have to spend a day without her.
Yeah. Lorcan, with all his faults, I will say he had good character growth in this series.
Yeah, we like him.
Yep. He's a little soft, little cinnamon roll towards the end. All
Mm-hmm.
big bad on the outside, soft and gooey on the inside.
For sure.
And then we get into chapter 118. This is where we kind of get kind of like the aftermath and we get a look into like what's going to happen in the future. So Irene is tending to warriors in the Great Hall. She is talking with Hafiza and tells her she wants to start her own Torre in the north. Then we get Manon standing vigil over the battlefield. She's like counting survivors. And then a ceremony is held for the fallen witches, both Iron Teeth and Kraken. And then the Krakens then find Manon, and a flower has been spotted in the waste. And this means that the curse is broken and they can return home. This is a big deal. And this is kind of a sign for Manon to take her place as Queen of the Witches and bridge the gap between the two, like, generation, like the Iron Teeth and the Krakens. And then we get to Aelin and Rowan. They're exploring the castle, and they're also talking about the future and how they want to rebuild Terrasen.
So in 119, everything, it's sometimes past, I believe, a week or 10 days, one of the two, and everything is cleaned up now and organized at the castle. And then the entire group, everyone's all cleaned up, dressed fancy as they can. They've all just kind of pulled some nice clothes together. And then everyone in the city that can fit in the room and all of the people of importance are gathered into a hall in the castle. And we also learn that Rowan has made Selene now the Queen of Dornell, because technically it was his, I believe. And then we learn that this is Aelin's coronation. And Aelin is crowned Darrow, the Queen of Terrasen. And then immediately in front of everyone, she offers the blood oath to Aedion, and he accepts. And they do that ceremony as well there in front of everyone. And as she goes to finish the ceremony and sit down on the throne, all of a sudden people start gasping, and the little folk pop up into the room and they lay Mab's crown at her feet and call her the Fairy Queen of the West. And she agrees to also serve them as their queen too. And she goes to walk now out to greet her city outside. And as she's doing that, she asks all of her friends who have helped her to walk with her to thank them and honor them for also helping her get there and save her city.
Yeah, really cute chapter there. Then we get to 120. There's a big party, and Nazarene is kind of recovering from the festivities and dancing. And then Caution and his siblings told them that some of the Rukin riders found some wyvern eggs, and they want to stay behind in Otterland to train them. And Dorian is all for it. And then Nazarene is trying to come to terms with what marrying Sartaq would mean. And his new nickname for her is Empress because he's the Kagan now. I think that's the term that they use. So she would be his Empress. And then, meanwhile, Kale's mother has sent him a letter, and this is huge for him because he hasn't talked to his mother or his brother for a while, and says he wishes for her and Holland to come and live with Kale. So she wishes that they can all live together, and he starts crying. And Irene comforts him. It's a really cute moment. Then we cut to Dorian. He finds Manon and says that the Rukin will train wyverns to be in his new Aerial Legion, and he wants her to come back from the waste to help them. And she says she will. She also jokingly is like, we should get married for an alliance. And then that's that.
Yeah. Nothing else about that. In chapter 121, this is the last like full chapter. This is a week later now, and everyone must say goodbye. And so it's just funny. And I just want to point out it says in there that all of like the royals and everyone's leaving, but the only person who's staying through the winter is Ralph. So he's like stuck there with Aelin, who he hates technically. And then Irene and Aelin go to hug goodbye, and Aelin has to say goodbye to Dorian and Chaol. And this is her hardest goodbye to them. And she's crying and she tells them that she loves them. And they're all like, it's not the last time we're going to see you. We're going to see you again. But it was just a really hard goodbye. And then Rowan and the cadre and Aedion, we learned they all got Gavriel's name kind of tattooed on them to honor him. And then Rowan tells Aelin how grateful he is to have found her, and they promise to rebuild their city together, and they say to whatever end.
Yep. That phrase is so cute. Oh, Rowan has a way with words too.
Mm.
Some of my favorite quotes are from him.
Yeah.
And then we get into the afterworld, which I'll make super quick. It's super easy, and you guys probably guessed it. Elite and Lorcan are married. Aedion and Lysandra plan to marry. And then the King's Flame is blooming around Orinth. So that is a happily ever after for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And that's the end.
that was good.
Final thoughts, Danielle?
Man, I'm really glad that Sarah J. Maas did not kill off kill off Aelin or Dorian. Like that looked bleak for a while that the series was going to end with one of them dying. Um so I'm glad that it was a happy ending. Like I know some people that might have been like, "Oh, I wish it was sadder." I'm like, I cried a million times during this book. Like there's beautiful moments, there's super sad moments, there's just jaw dropping moments. So I'm like, okay, I had enough tears. I just want a happy ending. So now that it's over, I'm like, ugh, what do I do? I mean, I want to see Aelin and Rowan come back in other books. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, I would agree. There, I don't know. Sarah J. Maas isn't really known for like being ruthless and killing off like really important characters. Because like I could see Aedion dying. I totally thought he was gonna die.
Mm-hmm.
I thought like some of the side characters like Gabriel could die. Like him and Aedion might die together. I don't know. But I totally thought Aedion was gonna die.
Yeah.
I thought Ren was gonna die because he's also kind of unimportant.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting that those two characters, their dads died instead.
Fair. Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know. I felt like not a lot of people died. I mean, the 13 died, obviously. That was huge.
That okay,
But
that was a ginormous death.
that was
That
the biggest one, and that is the one that I didn't see coming. I thought maybe Astrid, like herself, but the entire 13 I did not see coming.
that was ruthless. Yeah. I mean, while Aelin and like none of them died, it's like, yeah, when the 13 died, that I was like, no way. This isn't happening. This is insane. I love the 13. I'm so obsessed with them.
Yeah, I will say that was very ruthless. So maybe she is a ruthless author, but I don't know. It's you can't predict it. Sarah J. Maas just does what she wants and it works.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy to think and see like where we came from in the beginning, from the original Throne of Glass, where we have Selena Sardothian, to now Aelin, Ash River, Whitethorn, Galathinius, Queen of Terrasen. Um, and so it's wild that the book series went from where it is in the first book now to the very end. Like this was a ginormous world that I could not imagine coming up with something this big myself. So that was just incredible.
I know. It was an incredible series. It's one of my absolute favorites. The world building's so amazing. I mean, the character growth, absolutely stunning. Like Aelin to Dorian to Kale to Lorcan and Rowan and their
Maeve
emotional journeys.
and like Maeve was always like we always like kind of thought she was bad, but going from being maybe a lad to all of a sudden like the evil character in the book. Like that was wild.
Yeah, because I would say Erewhon was an enemy, but I think Maeve was the enemy.
Yeah,
Like the antagonist of the book was Maeve,
for sure. For
which
sure.
we didn't think so in the beginning. We're like, oh, she's just mean.
Yeah, it's not until like really far into the series that you learn like the mastermind of all of this was Maeve, and Erewhon is there because of Maeve. And so, yeah.
Yep. Ah, great series. Crazy that it's over though. What do we do now? Do we have any suggestions of what book we want to do next? We'll probably not get into a full series quite yet. Might take a bit of a breather and just do like standalone novels. We've got some ideas, but we want to hear yours. But for now, to the readers who listen, we'll see you later.
Bye, everyone.